So we're back, builders by nature.
Yes, all about ordinary people building extraordinary lives.
It's got a good ring to it.
It really does.
It's kind of nice. It kind of rolls off the tongue well.
So what's our topic for today?
It's been a while. We've been in just a fun season.
Some would say fun. Some would say not fun.
I think it's been fun. We're finally in our house. I mean, I think the last episode we were in a trailer.
We were, yeah.
Were we?
We're there.
We're there. We're actually in the house. We're in our dining room right now, at the house. And sure, if we're looking around, we see a couple of projects that need done, but I mean, we've come a long way.
We really have.
And I think this season has been full of, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but because we've talked about this extensively. We're in the house and just taking it easy. Like, it just felt good to look around and say, hey, we're not in this whirlwind of projects. As I cough, we have some stability, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would say that it's probably been a couple months of rest that we've been experiencing, which is not the norm for us. Usually we're on the go. We've got new projects to do, whether that's a house or an Airbnb or just a home project. But we have really pressed the pause button and are just really enjoying time with our kids, spending time on building the business systems out. And I think it's really been a great last couple of months.
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, we've had, in a weird way, kind of some turnover in the business. I mean, nothing that was bad. It was just circumstantial, across the board. And so it's been a season of man, if we were going full blast and everything was crazy and we had kind of some turnover and some different things where we had to work through, I don't know how that would end up. It wouldn't have been good.
It would not have been good.
No. So that actually brings up the topic that I think we should talk about today, if it's okay with you. Because we're in this season of rest and we've both been talking about it, how beneficial it's been for us. There was a post that somebody put on Facebook, and it was kind of like a direct attack to people that are resting. They worded it in a way of people are taking it easy while we're charging the mountain type of thing, and I don't get worked up too much, but I turned into a little bit of a Facebook warrior on that post, a little bit, right? It was like, man, I'm going to go to battle with this keyboard and I'm going to come out with blood on my hands.
I will poke this bear.
You know what it was, though? I just don't like that kind of misleading grind, work your face off constantly. I feel like, man, there's seasons for really going through the grind and building something and working hard. And then there's seasons of resting.
Yeah.
And you have to clearly identify what season you're in. There it is.
Just to clarify the situation, you had written something that was basically we're taking time for, our family. We're taking time to kind of rebuild the pillars that were a little bit wobbly, because of what the last several years in the real estate market has brought. And someone came on and said, basically, I'm glad you're resting because that means I'm going to grind my face off and I'm going to take over the world. And I think you and I just looked at each other and said, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Go do your thing.
Yeah.
We're good.
The post that I had posted was about something I was wrestling with internally where, man, I felt like God's peace in this season of just taking a couple of steps back and really kind of taking it in of just what the last couple of years have been for us. And it was a recalibration in a way, it was like, we're still working, right? The business doesn't stop. Things don't stop. We were still working, but it wasn't at the level of intensity that it has been. It was more of I guess I kind of liken it to, when you're in a car and you put on cruise control, it's like, you're still going, you're still moving forward, but you're not working about, trying to pass up cars and lane changes and all of that. You're just at a cruising speed and you can kind of relax mentally a little bit there. Yeah. And that's what it's been.
I think we've talked about this before, but you and I believe that life is just not a solid sprint.
Yeah.
It is a marathon where you sprint a little, you rest a little, you sprint a little, you rest a little. Because in the restful moments, that is where you gain clarity.
Yeah.
Clarity for your family, clarity for your finances, clarity for your marriage. There are times that we have to slow down and reevaluate, okay, is life what we're wanting it to be?
Yeah.
You can have all the money in the world, but if your marriage is falling apart, what's it all for?
Yeah.
You can have all the time in the world, but if you're not spending time with your kids, what is it all for? So I just think for us, the most important thing that you and I have decided is there's a series of sprints and there is a series of rest. And we teach that to our team. We make that a priority for our team because we want them to be the best version of themselves. And how can you possibly be the best version of yourself if you're constantly at an all-out sprint? Your body is not designed to continue running at the fastest pace you can run. You have to have moments where you take a breath, you drink some water, you regain clarity,
Yeah.
I just think that it's so important.
Yeah. Kind of a recalibration, even biblically on the seventh day, God rested, and I think that there's something to be said there of like, there are seasons of kind of Sabbath, seasons of that rest. And I think the reason why a little bit of that rebuttal post really fired me up was because I believe that we have been in that season where it's like, oh man, we're going to take the mountain and we're going to go and we're going to sprint hard. And we felt that like that was right in that season. But I think what bothers me is when you allow other people or you feel you have the right to define the season of somebody else. And I think that's overstepping. That's actually really bad leadership, in my opinion, because when you are leading from the lens of, I'm going to do what I feel is best for me, and I'm going to force you to do the same thing. True leadership is looking and saying, hey, you might be in a season of sprint. You might be in a season where you have your goals in front of you, and you're coming in rested and healthy, and you need to go for it. Yeah. And then somebody else right next to them in the same organization or the same world, whatever it is, they might be circumstantially in a season of, hey, you need to take a time out. You just need to take some rest, take a couple of breaths, really regain some momentum, recalibrate yourself, make sure that you have clarity on purpose and vision for your life, and that you have kind of your big why that you're kind of latched onto, Yeah. So, let's talk about that. What do you feel like, what does that process look like for you and I of kind of feeling out and defining the season that you're in?
We have our best conversations on walks. Yeah. That is always where I feel like we have the light bulb moments because there's nothing else going on. There's nothing distracting us. There is no, goal that we are chasing after. It's just like, hey, let's have a conversation of where we are headed next.
Yeah.
Where are we feeling like we're going in this season? Does that mean building, relationship with our kids? Does that mean we're building wealth through real estate? Like, what does that mean for us? And I feel like
it's so hard to protect that too,
it is.
Right? Like that time, as small as it is, a 30-minute walk for us, a 45-minute walk, whatever it is so hard to protect that.
Yeah.
Where even our schedules sync up, right? We work together, we live in the same house, we have a good marriage. It's still hard to sync that up.
Yeah.
But we have to actually fight for that time.
Being purposeful is difficult.
Yeah.
And that is why the most successful people that you see in life, when you get down to the bottom denominator of what they all do, they're just purposeful.
Yeah.
They show up every day in their marriage. They show up every day at work. They show up every day for their kids. They're just consistently showing up purposefully.
They have those non-negotiables.
Yeah.
That no matter what, it's kind of that 80-20 rule, right? Where it's like, you're 20%, you want to focus 80% of your time on the 20% that actually produces the results. But yet life gets thrown at us and the 80%, you understand what I'm saying? It's like
it takes over.
The 20% that doesn't really matter, whatever, takes up 80% of our time. Yeah. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's just, you have to clearly define what are the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And, we see unfortunately, we see a lot of marriages, we see a lot of businesses, just lives in general that lose sight of that 20%, the non-negotiables. Yeah. They let everything else start stacking up and taking place. And, for our life, we are literally in a season right now that our kids are pretty much all playing sports in extracurriculars. Levi just started junior high. He's done tennis. He is in soccer right now, which has been a blast to watch because he's never played before. Oh yeah, and he's still very active in his travel baseball team, and that's pretty much year round. And guess what? Basketball is up next.
Right.
Apparently.
Yeah, it is. For
Ellie just finished her first softball season.
Yep.
The girls are both going to play basketball. Luke is still in the middle of his first baseball season. Like, just that alone can suck up so much of our time. And we want to do that for the kids. Yeah. It's like, hey, for us to be even healthy parents, healthy business owners, healthy individuals, healthy spouses to each other, we have to protect those times. It's kind of a pulse check.
It really is. I think the other thing that's important is finding the individual time with each one of our kids. It's so easy when you have more than one to just group them all together. Okay, let's go get ice cream. Let's go get dinner, whatever it is as a family. But I think something that you and I have both gained knowledge in over this last couple of months is each one of the kids need individual time.
Yeah.
It does not have to be lengthy periods of time. It could be something like, taking one out on a date to go get ice cream. Like I know that you do this when you go to pick up Ellie, you take her on a little ice cream treat on the way home and you just have that moment together. Emma loves to read right before bed. So taking 30 minutes and just reading to her individually with no one else around, like those things make a world of a difference to a kid. And for us, it's no different in terms of time sacrifice. It's just, again, going back to the intentionality of, hey, let's break them off. Let's get to know what's happening in your heart right now. How is school going? We have to raise healthy kids. That's part of this thing called life.
Yeah. It's a bit of a pulse check, for your relationships. Yeah. I think that sometimes we get into these moments or these, my heart goes out to like divorced parents, where the kids are going back and forth and there might be this pressure. I've seen this where it's almost like this invisible pressure that both parents have that when they have the kids, they go perform, they go do something. And really, I think at the core of who we are, we can go do things, but I think it's far more important is somebody listening to where somebody's at? Is somebody saying, hey, we're all going to just take a break for a second. I want you to really tell me how you're doing. Yeah. What do you need right now on a spiritual level, on a physical level, emotionally? Where are you at right now? Yeah. And, when that happens, especially in our marriage, that is kind of identified sometimes on walks, right? Like we can look at each other and say, and I'm tired. Are you feeling that? And a lot of times we feel it kind of in our house. We feel it in the external things, I guess the things that are affected by our emotions before we even clearly identify the emotion. But on those talks, we've gotten deep. Like, hey, I'm kind of searching for purpose. I'm searching for the thing that gets me out of bed every morning again, and it's that recalibration of it. Yeah, so it really is. Yeah. Yeah. What next?
Well, I think that another key lesson that we've learned in this is how to do hard things well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute. What does that mean when I say that to you?
Yeah. So there was this quote. It was actually a video that we watched at a conference that was amazing. It was a basketball coach. I think it was the Duke women's basketball program where the coach said, it's kind of talking to the players of like, sometimes we get into this funk of thinking, hey, when this thing changes in our life, when this class is over, or when the season's over, or this injury gets over, or whatever it is, right? That it's going to be easier. And that's not how life works. The hard things are always going to be there. And there might be certain seasons that are hard in a certain way that are a little bit more out in the open, a little bit more of an obstacle. But I think learning to do hard things well, I think that's more of a skill and an art. Life comes at you fast. And no matter what, you're going to have to do hard things. So if you can learn to be a problem solver and learn to say, I'm not going to let my circumstances get the best of me emotionally or physically, I'm going to learn to conquer this. It's like, no matter what, that's how opportunities continue to come in the next season because you've learned to conquer hard things.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that even though we have considered the last couple of months rest for us, it does not mean that hard things have still not come up.
Yeah.
In fact, they are the unseen hard things that we've had to handle.
Yep.
And it's just very different than, again, where we've been in seasons where we've just purchased 2 investment properties and everybody is all hands on deck, where we are headed to the house, we're staging, we're renovating. This is a different type of season. It's a rebuilding season in some ways. And I think that a lot of times we don't give enough credit to the quiet seasons for the hard things that go on during that time. But I loved exactly what you said. It's not that those things are still not coming. It's just we're learning to handle them better.
Yeah.
Do hard better.
I remember my freshman year in college, I was playing baseball, and I loved my, all the coaches that I had, in junior high, high school, all of that. But there was also I think there was 3 different varsity high school coaches while I was in high school. So because of that, it's like the changing of the guard, right? I didn't have in-depth coaching. I loved baseball, loved pitching, went to college and to pitch in college. And I remember the coach kind of looking at me and it was like this, hey, you have potential, but we're going to completely strip down your mechanics. Yeah. And I had to change everything that I did, the way that I threw. And I remember going through a season where I'm like, man, I don't have any touch or any feel. I don't feel passionate about this. I honestly feel like I'm having to start all over again. But it was the season that I was in of, hey, you're not going to go out there and be able to dominate at the next level without retooling where you're at. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a lesson that I've carried into life of, you can only get so far at one level without you might have to completely retool for a season to go out and be able to compete at the next level that you want to go to.
Spot on. The fundamental ceiling of achievement.
Yeah.
It's the natural ability that you can naturally get yourself to. You're a photographer. Okay, well, you naturally have this ability to take great pictures, and to put a little filter on it and gosh, it looks professional.
Yeah.
But taking your photography to the next level takes this really intentional sitting down and studying and creating a business model and doing time blocking for calendar. Those things are not natural, but it's breaking through that fundamental ceiling of achievement that when we do that, when we put the focus and effort in that, we find ourselves on another playing field.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have done that. Like I think back to a time where you and I had first gotten married. And I had just finished up nursing school, and I was going to send in my check to the Board of Registered Nursing for $325, and my check bounced. You remember this?
I remember it.
We literally did not have enough money for $325 nurse fee.
Yeah.
And now when I look at where we're at today, I go like, wow, we have, several Airbnbs, some long-term rentals, everything's on autopilot, but it's still really hard.
Yeah.
There's lots of moving pieces. Tenants need things. There's calendars constantly shifting. It's just a different level of hard.
Yeah.
And when we sat down to be, again, intentional and purposeful about learning how to figure those things out, we're still doing hard. It's just learning how to do hard better.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of a choose your hard.
Yeah.
Like it is hard to be broke, and it's hard to build yourself into, avenues where you have kind of self-sustainability, that's really difficult. Yeah. And it's a long game. So it's like, choose your hard.
Choose your hard. Exactly.
So, one of the things that I've loved that I feel like, especially after moving to Nashville, and it's funny because I don't want to like glorify Nashville, right? Obviously, we're a little fond.
It's pretty great.
We love, our little slice of heaven in Franklin, and that's great. I think a lot of it too is just kind of our age. Wisdom kind of started creeping in a little bit. We learned some life lessons. But one of the things I've loved about being here is that when you get people that are in your corner, they understand that they have no right to choose your season for you.
Right.
What they have a right to do is to believe in you and call you up into your ability. We talked about this with accountability. That's my favorite thing in the Bible where it talks about Barnabas and, him being the son of encouragement and encouraging Saul, all these things. Like, that's one of my favorite passages in scripture. But out of that, it's like accountability, being given an account for your ability and not calling you out, but calling you up. When you have a tribe of people and you have people in your life that you respect in different areas, right? And you communicate with them, they have your best interest in mind. That they love you. I just had this last night with a business mastermind that I'm in. And I kind of shared my heart with some things. And Austin Husky, was there. And he looked at me and he was like, that you just said, that's what you need to do. He's like, I would love for that to be on your 2024 goals so that I can keep you accountable to it. He said it with a smile on his face because he looked at me and said, that sparks some passion in you. So I want to hold you accountable to that. So I think there's something really special about finding those people in your life that will call you up. And in that, they're going to call you out on the things that are keeping you from that ability and what you want to accomplish in that season. And that includes rest. Like we've talked about that even in the season of we're not taking on some big projects. I feel like we're coming out of that. We're ready to kind of like get out there and do something. But even then, you still need people that are going to say, hey, easy, taper back. Maybe you're kind of addicted to the busy right now. You committed to rest, and I'm going to help you commit to that rest. I'm going to call you out on it. Don't take on that project right now. It's a tough thing to hear, but when you know that it's coming in love, that people around you will not try to dictate your season. They'll hold you accountable to the season that you and they both know that you're in.
Yeah. You wouldn't have the capacity to dream about the next thing if you didn't give yourself the space to rest.
So good.
Because your mind is constantly running and chasing and going 90 to nothing. But it's in the moments where you put a stop to all of that and you really give yourself the capacity to dream about what is the next stage for me.
Yeah.
And through this season, look, now you have this epiphany of like, okay, I think I know what I'm running after now. And because you have those people in your corner who see that, yes, they're encouraging you. Andy and Lori Ward are some of those clients of ours, but the biggest champions out there, truly, looking at you and saying, yes, go for it. You're called to do this. Like, go build what you want to build. But again, you wouldn't even have thought about that idea if you didn't have the moment to rest.
It's true. Yeah.
So growth comes from rest.
It's so good. It's so good. I this is also something that somebody just posted this on a social media platform, and it was this, yes, but it kind of put words to it. Like, I think the quote was, don't compare your season 1 to somebody else's, or your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 12.
Yeah.
And, you think about that, and man, comparison is such, it's such a thief of joy, and I think there's something about, it's a fine line to look at somebody's life and you either compare or you find inspiration or you try to belittle them, right? Inspiration is the only thing that's healthy there. Like, it's okay to look at somebody else that's killing it. Even when you feel like you're in a season of rest and that competitive, component of you is like poking the bear and say, come on, how are they doing it? And you're not, to just say, because it's not my season. Yeah. That's their season. It's not my season. That's not my chapter right now. I'm in a completely different chapter. And I can root for them. Yeah. That's not going to do anything. It's not going to do me any good to try to belittle their success or belittle where they're at. They're just in a different chapter that I'm in right now.
Not only that you can do it, but you should do it. You should encourage and you should champion those other people. And when you and I look around at the people that we champion, that we admire, like, man, I love what a great dad he is to his boys, his grown boys. Like, I love that. You've said that multiple times.
Yeah.
There is no other option than to encourage and to champion them along, because we raise by lifting others.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's like you get to the next level in your life, whatever that looks like, by encouraging other people.
Yeah. community is so important. It's so important. So I think it's really important for us, to, I guess, kind of establish what's the point we're making in this. And for me, for whoever's listening, whatever season you find yourself in, do not apologize for that season. That season can really only be established between you and God. Like, that's something where, it's okay. There's growth in every season. There's a purpose in every season. Now, are there times where you need to be called up into a season to kind of keep you accountable to your ability? Absolutely. That's why it's so important to establish good relationships with people. But I just think that there's something out there, especially, man, we are in a year, our business is in a year where we're taking huge hits right now. Anybody that has anything to do with a house, if you're in lumber, if you're in mortgage, if you're in, real estate sales, lending, it is a bloodbath right now. It can be. And that's okay. It's this season. Everything is cyclical. So it's up and down. And we're in a season where it's tough right now. It's really tough. But when you're around people that encourage you to embrace the season, whether that's, sometimes it might be for some people, hey, you need to go and quadruple down on some certain areas and you need to grind it out and build some things. And some people like us know that God's really put on our heart to rest and that we're coming out and it's been so stinking good for us. So whatever season you might find yourself in, I just want to encourage you, don't let somebody else's chapter, don't let somebody else's success or somebody else's, season of rest discourage you from whatever season you feel called to. That is something that nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can establish that for you. You have to establish yourself.
Yeah. And give yourself rest, because rest gives you the capacity to dream.
Yeah.
I think that's a good word for today to end on.
Yeah. Well, builders by nature, ordinary people building extraordinary lives. Another episode done.
High five.
High five.